Brian, Rob, J. King, and Sam Packard present Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, welcome to the Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Oh yeah! Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, welcome to the Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Banana 19. Jaylen Brown, D. White, Crazy Joe. Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. With Tatum coming back. Steel Bottle. Oh yeah! Come on, long lotion. Don't have no guy wants to win. Don't get the next generation.
Let's go, your family fan Celtics. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Your family fan Celtics. Let's go.
What up, what up, what up? It's me, Jay King from The Athletic, here with Brian Robb from MassLive.com. Together, we are Still Potable, the greatest Celtics podcast ever. This show is brought to you by CLNS on the CLNS network. If you want more than the free show, which we do twice a week, you can also find us on patreon.com/stillpotable. There you can find daily shows, Monday through Friday. Again, greatest Celtics podcast ever. It's me, who works for The Athletic, been doing this for 13 years-ish full-time. B-Rob, who works for Mass Live, he's been doing this about the same time. And Sam Packard, who is a legendary professional sports fan, who together we have more than 30 years of professional experience in this, and we got a lot of Celtics knowledge. A lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing this. So come join up. And right now during the holidays, actually, we are running a promo where we're giving away a free month subscription to the first 100 people who sign up. We still have some slots open there. So go to my Twitter, find that, by J King, and sign up for a free month if you want. It's a great time to come aboard and check things out. Even though the Celtics had a terrible loss in Portland. Just a terrible loss against a bad Blazers team, missing half their roster. And it was just poor execution down the stretch, B-Rob. Is this just the next step in Jaylen Brown's evolution, where now that he's scoring 30 points every night, teams are going to do more to get the ball out of his hands? He's going to see more double teams than he ever has. And he and the Celtics are just going to have to figure this out.
It felt like it, given how well he's sustained this run of dominance from a scoring standpoint in the last month here. December, he's probably not a lock for Eastern Conference Player of the Month, but pretty close to it at the point, given what he's put together. But in this game, the Blazers threw multiple bodies at him in crunch time. And honestly, Jay, like, you look at him being ready for it, I almost look at it like the team needs to be ready for it, because in a few of these spots, it felt like he was on the island, and the awareness of guys around him to give him the outlet that he needs to, create the 4-on-3 situation when the double teams come close to midcourt just wasn't there.
Yeah, and as much as he's been scoring, he really hasn't seen double teams a lot. Like, there haven't been too many teams who have just come out with a clear strategy, do not let Jaylen Brown kill us. And that was different in Portland. Portland sent hard doubles. Portland was forcing the ball out of Jaylen's hands. He had 27 points in the first half. He had 37 for the game. And down the stretch, the Blazers were just sending double team after double team, really saying, we'll let other guys beat us. The only other team that really doubled him consistently, that I can recall at least, was the Knicks. And the Celtics actually did a great job handling that. They used Jordan Walsh as a roller. He had some nice plays in that role. Jaylen got off it. They did what they had to do behind him, but it was very different in Portland. And you could see at times, like, the Celtics were frustrated with each other, how they were handling the coverages. Like, Jaylen, on one play, Derek White came to set a screen, and his man, Shaedon Sharpe, then doubled. And after the game, Joe Mazzulla said the Celtics knew that would happen. Like, if you brought certain defenders into the action, they were going to double. And it looked like Jaylen was either telling Derek White to get out of setting the screen and like give him an outlet quicker, or he was telling him to not set the screen at all and have somebody else set it. I couldn't really tell, and none of the people involved, Jaylen and Derek, weren't like super open about it, so I wasn't sure exactly what happened. But it would have made sense for him to tell Derek, like, get out of the screen, go make yourself available, because then you can invite the double, you can get off the ball, and instead Derek held the screen probably a little too long. Shaedon Sharpe was able to trap with immunity, basically, because Derek, who would have been the safety valve, just wasn't in a position to catch the pass, and Jaylen, got stripped, gave up free throws the other way, and it was just kind of miscommunications like that throughout the last several minutes. It was like really the last 4 minutes was just constant turnovers for the Celtics. I think Jaylen had one with like 4:05 left, down 3. Jaylen had another one on a flagrant offensive foul, also down 3. And then White and Brown just like could not connect when the Blazers were doubling. Even one time Derek had problems like just feeding Jaylen at near midcourt. And so they just had a lot of issues with it. And so I think it's something that they'll have to grow from, that Jaylen will have to just sort of figure out. And that, like you said, the guys around him will have to figure out, like, what does Derek White do in those situations? Can Nimi make himself more available to come get the ball and relieve some of the pressure? Can you use a different screener? Maybe instead of bringing Shaedon Sharpe, who's 6'7" and super athletic, you have Klingen's man come set the screen, and then you try to attack it differently. I don't know, but they definitely have some film to watch and figure out. And to me, this is just something Jaylen's going to have to deal with. He might not have to deal with it forever, because Jason Tatum's going to come back and the doubles will probably switch back to him. But Jaylen's scoring so well and scoring so efficiently that right now I think it makes sense for teams to force the ball out of his hands and force the Celtics to figure out different answers.
Yeah, and this was the night where like Jaylen Brown was the only consistent scorer for this team. Like White, Pritchard are having off shooting nights. They got, I don't think anyone else besides Jaylen scored over 13 points in that game. And so this was the way, all right, like we're not gonna let this guy beat us tonight. And whereas most other nights it's like 3 or 4 guys in the Celtics can have it going and punish you, making the double teams not the best strategy. But it was fascinating to me, Jay. Like they took Nimi off the floor, I think pretty shortly after they doubled off of him, and then he just didn't have the awareness to kind of look back he was just rolling into the paint when I think around the 5-minute mark, was like oblivious to Jaylen looking for a pass to him there. And so it was you could see it was like a learning experience or something like that for Nimi. Like this is like the next step for him too, of being like knowing what's coming in those situations. I'm sure that's something like just Joe mentioned that they were going to go over with in the scouting report before a game. And on top of that, you have Portland just had they have long wings. They have guys that they can jump in that situation and create those problems. A lot of teams don't necessarily have that with Jaylen. So it's something that it was so uncharacteristic just to see them throwing the ball over the court, because they've been so good with turnovers this year. And then this was like the totally other side of the spectrum. And it'd been a while. I mean, it kind of was representative of just how good this team has been offensively, where that just looks so weird for them to have, like especially with Jaylen and Derek having so many miscommunications or misfires on that front.
Yeah, it was a super frustrating loss for the Celtics. Like you said, they've been all season long the best at taking care of the ball, and they are up, 8 at halftime. Then they watched some of that bleed away. They hit a couple of threes early in the fourth quarter. Like Hugo Gonzalez was playing center against Klingen, which was interesting. And he had 2 plays in a row. Like first he caught it, pump faked, almost traveled, and then attacked Klingen off the bounce, created room for Sam Hauser to hit a 3. Then the next play, Klingen was in the lane again, because he's big dude, and they were leaving Ugo alone, and Ugo just splashed home a 3 on the next play to tie it. And it looked like the Celtics might pull one out and out execute a younger team down the stretch, but that's not what happened at all. The Blazers defense gave them all sorts of trouble. And like you said, they have long wings, Kamara, Sharp, Murray. Like even with all the absences they have big, long, athletic defenders, and they were able to give the Celtics troubles with those double teams. And so I do think other teams will see that and probably try to do more of that to the Celtics, but I don't think that's going to be a way to sink them for much longer. I think like they're too good at taking care of the ball. They're too smart as a team, and that they will figure it out. But it was some bad possessions, and just like I said, a really frustrating loss because their offense went totally empty down the stretch. And then they gave up the huge offensive rebound to Klingon when Avdia took a pretty bad shot. I think the Blazers were up 1 at the time and took a tough 3. And Ugo was playing center and just couldn't keep Klingon off the glass, and then fouled him too to compound the issue. And just a really frustrating loss. So they need to figure out. And to me, that's the next step for them right now is like when teams adjust to how well Jaylen is playing and the usage that he's had and all these points that he's pouring in, what do you do next? Because it's gotten to a point where if you just let Jaylen Brown operate in the mid-range in ISO and let him do his thing, like you're not paying attention as an opposing coaching staff, because Jaylen has been able to beat those coverages all season long. And the Celtics offense has been humming for a while now. So got to try to disrupt them somehow. And I think doubles will be probably seen more often over this next stretch.
And the game was set up perfectly for him. Like with the 27 points in the first half, it was like, all right, so this 30-point threshold is not going to be a distraction in the second half. He's like, I'm getting my work done early. He came out aggressive, like the first 2 or 3 shots of that game was like, all right, you could see right away, like, all right, I'm getting after this. And the Blazers, on paper should be better defensively. They have not been a good defensive team this year just because of their injuries, you'd think, for the most part. But Jaylen, that was a phenomenal first half for him. And then he knocks it out in the middle of the third quarter. So you're like, all right, he's got this. Now the pressure's not on. They're not going to force it to him too much. But like you said, we know Jaylen's handle is like, it's gotten better, but it's still not a strength there. So it's wonder if they look at that, but okay, do we have to get him more off the ball in those situations and find him other places to get the ball in the court as opposed to, at the top of the key quickly where the double teams can come faster there. So it'll be fascinating to see how he adapts to that. The coaching staff looks at this film and figure out, when this next situation arises, what's our best way to counteract it.
I think they'll put him back in the same spot. And
just learn from it.
Joe has said, his whole philosophy is creating 2-on-1 advantages.
Yeah.
There is no easier way to do that than accepting a double team and getting off the ball and watching your team have a 4-on-3. And to me, like that, you need to figure out everything else. Like accept the double team, get off it, play 4-on-3, have Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Jordan Walsh, whoever is out there, like just have those guys punish the strategy after Jaylen gets off it. I think you have to work on the spacing, you have to work on the timing, you have to work on everything else. But to me, like you don't want Jaylen like that. That's the perfect situation to create a 4-on-3.
That's true.
And that's what you want to do. You just have to handle it better.
Yeah. Not as close to midcourt.
Yeah. Yeah. And not making it so easy for the doubles to affect him.
Right. I feel like again in that game, like I put that more on the guys around Jaylen than Jaylen. How that
Derek
played out.
Put them all on himself.
Yeah. Like
Derek said, all those 3 turnovers were my fault. And I think that was kind of Derek White being Derek. I don't think all of them were his fault. But like they were definitely team turnovers. They weren't just Jaylen Brown turnovers. That's for sure.
It was so weird. Like Derek White just having those type of mistakes, like in a
Even
row.
bounce pass.
Like where
The inbounds pass. That was a nice inbounds
it
play.
was nice.
They could have gotten Jalen a dunk or a layup and threw it away. Yeah, it was such a weird final 4 or 5 minutes. And it's like before that looked like Jalen was going to have maybe a memorable game. And obviously he tied the Larry Bird streak with 9 straight games of 30 points. But he had 27 points in the first half. He ended the first half with a step back 3 over, I think it was Chris Murray. And then he started talking shit to everybody around. Like he did sort of a lap around the court. He was talking shit to fans, and then he was chirping at Tamani Kamara. And I think he took offense to like a Kamara foul late in the second quarter, or maybe midway through the second quarter. It looked like it was a fast break foul, and Jalen kind of shoved him into the basket stanchion. I don't know if they showed it on
yeah, we caught that.
and he kind of shoved. I was surprised they didn't call a technical foul on Jalen. But from that point through the end of the first half and going into halftime, even Jalen was like really chirping with Kamara. And there was one play where I think it was Kamara was guarding behind Jalen and like trying to make a difference from behind. And Jalen like stopped on a dime, got an and one, and he jumped straight up, but Kamara like hit Kamara's head on the way. And while Kamara was on the ground, even it looked like Jalen was talking shit to him. Like it was unlike you normally see Jalen, because he doesn't really engage in a lot of that stuff. He's pretty quiet, but for whatever reason, Kamara really pissed him off, and he was really chirping him, and it was a fun back and forth. And then halftime came, and the Blazers just sort of switched things up and did more to sort of shadow him and keep him from getting a rhythm. And then they sent all sorts of doubles at him. So it was I think it'll be a good game for Jalen's education, because as he said a couple times this season, like a lot of this is new to him. Like it's always been Jason Tatum getting double teams. Always. Like it's never really been Jalen. And so being in charge of the offense when those doubles do come, it's a different responsibility. And the guys around him too, like Nemi. How often has Nemi been on the court when teams are doubling in the fourth quarter?
Right, not at all, honestly.
Like pretty rare, yeah. How like Hugo Gonzalez, he's never seen it in the NBA at least. And he was playing center for a portion of that stretch yesterday. So these are things that could take a little bit of time. Hopefully the Celtics can speed that up a little bit and learn from this, and next time they'll be ready for it. But it's definitely something that they're going to have to figure out and deal with moving forward.
All right. I want to get your take on a shift that's happened on this trip in Joe Mazzulla's rotation. But first, let's take a quick break here and hear from our sponsor, Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. We're going through the holiday season here, the best time of the year for sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I here are up making decisions every day, what gifts we had to buy people, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that's at Prize Picks. Now, Prize Picks, they got a ton of great features out there right now. They have early payouts, so if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may have the option to cash out your winnings even before their game finishes. And I know, again, my fantasy season is over. It's been over for a while, but with my team being cooked on Prize Picks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft. Prize Picks lets you draft fantasy football every week, pick your favorite players, and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. So download the Prize Picks apps and use the code CONS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CONS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks It's good to be right. All right, Jay. So this trip and this continued in Portland has seen the reemergence of Luka Garza into the Celtics rotation. And with that has also come, the pretty much one guy getting squeezed out just from a minutes standpoint in the wing, and that's been Josh Minot. How obviously it's only been 2 or 3 games here. Like Minot didn't play a second game in a row against the Blazers. We know this stuff is fluctuating right now, but how have you taken in terms of what Garza's brought back to the table since he's emerged again here, and just how this is going to be divvied up going forward here now? After we've seen a game in Portland where I guess Garza I think struggled in that game, fouled more of the fouling and stuff that got him into trouble earlier in the year, and then Ugo's playing well, but there hasn't the consistency. Even with Jordan Walsh, like the foul trouble with him, there's a lot going on in that wing situation. I feel like right now, as well as that also translates into the backup bigs.
Yeah, obviously they dusted Garza off a few games ago, and he just played so well. I don't think they could take him out of the rotation. Like he had 9 offensive rebounds in his first game back against Toronto, and really changed that entire game for the Celtics. Then he comes back against the Pacers and dominates the glass again, leads a huge comeback. Then he has another pretty good game against the Pacers, and the Celtics were playing extremely well with him on the floor. Felt like you experienced more of the downside of Luka Garza in that Portland game, where he got dunked on by Klingon. The Blazers were like big enough and physical enough that he wasn't able to totally dominate the glass. And then he had a bunch of fouls, a bunch of moving screens. And he was -9, I think, in how many minutes? 11 minutes. So quick -9. And then the Celtics went small. Instead of going small to Minot, they went small with Ugo at center. And so I don't know. I think Garza has played well enough, and the team has played well enough with him to justify trying him more often. But I think at some point you're going to see the Celtics go back to those smaller lineups, back to Josh Minot at center, and because that's the look that has worked more consistently for them. And if Garza does run into a little more trouble here, or maybe the game in Portland was enough to give Minot another shot and go smaller again and more athletic, and see what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. This is 82 game season. You're gonna have different guys go through different runs, and Garza certainly played up to that over the 3 games prior to Sunday night. The other fascinating part, it's interesting to me that like Minot is below everyone else in the wing rotation right now, where it's like, all right, if you're not playing him at backup center, like we want to give these other guys, whether it's Ugo, Baylor Shireman, obviously Jordan Walsh still on the minutes over him. So I don't expect that to last too long, but like with Walsh in particular right now, like the foul trouble stuff with him, I don't know whether it's like just keeping him from getting a rhythm, but it feels like there's been a huge amount of these games where he's out a few minutes in to the first quarter, and last night, on Sunday, he picked up 3. He was already going to be taken out of the game, and then picked up an offensive foul before Joe could take him out of the game. So like, is that something, are you seeing any like common threads of that for him, or is that just how he plays and that's just comes with the territory?
I think part of it too is he was pretty badly sick, and just coming back from that, and that seemed to disrupt the rhythm that he was in. He was playing great basketball before that. Ever since he got sick, it's sort of been a little rough, and so maybe he just doesn't have his wind yet. Maybe that's affecting him. Maybe he's a step slow because of that. But yeah, I think because these young guys had so much success early, it's easy to think, it's always going to be good. They're always going to be helpful, and they're just young, really young. And I think it's going to be ups and downs for all these guys. Jordan Walsh, a couple months ago, he had never played rotation minutes before, like literally never. And so he's dealing with all of it. I think, Minot, he's had like roller coaster swings this season, from starting to coming off the bench to not playing at all to, oh wow, he's the center right now, and it actually is pretty good look. And now he's dealing with the reemergence of Luka Garza and got to reestablish himself all over again. So yeah, I just think there'll be swings for these wings, and as promising as they've all been, they're still very young guys learning how to navigate the NBA for the first time, and that comes with some inconsistency, and I think they're dealing with that right now with some of these guys. And I would say overall, they've all been positive. They've all proven they can help. It's been probably the biggest story, maybe other than Jaylen Brown, of the entire Celtics season. But yeah, you're still going to see some warts from time to time, and I think that's happening right now.
Yeah, the surplus they have there is great. Like, it's like with Minot, it's more of, I think it's more about like what Garza's did in those games as opposed to what he's done. Like, his numbers for the season are like very solid, and it's just when other guys are pretty much taking over for that spot, which has happened. No one's, I feel like, has been sat down this year because of stuff they've done. If everyone else next to them has just kind of taken, made the most of their chances when they've got.
Yeah, and with Minot, like, he started when Jordan Walsh missed the game against Indiana, and then Joe got upset about, I think how he was guarding Pascal Siakam and some game plan stuff. Didn't start him in the second half, and then Hugo Gonzalez goes wild and helps lead a comeback victory, and Luka Garza helped lead the comeback victory. And so you reward those guys. You keep playing them, and now Minot has to figure it out. So yeah, and Joe has done a pretty good job of rewarding the guys who have played well, and I think the other part of that is showing the guys who haven't played as well, like, all right, there are consequences to your inconsistency. And when you don't do the right things, there's another guy behind you who's going to play his ass off, who's going to come in and make winning plays. And sometimes that will be Minot, but lately other guys have been given a shot.
Yeah, he's pushed the buttons quite well here in December on that front. And if there's any indication of like how, when Garza was given a chance playing with his hair on fire, like when Minot comes back, if that trend holds, then when Minot gets his chance, whenever that's 2 games away, 4 games away, whatever, probably see more of the same from him from an energy standpoint. But it's also, again, I mean, we've hit on this, Jay, like whenever Tatum does come back, you're already not to play with one of these guys already. You're going to be, a couple of these guys are going to get squeezed out. And it does make me wonder again, as we get closer to the trade deadline, and if they do decide to make any type of addition to this roster, like, you do have a pool of excess that you did not expect to have within those guys, and how they will judge that, or whether they'll be like, you know what, we want to keep all this depth. It's great to have all this wing depth, and for now and the future, because these guys are young, these guys are still promising, and yeah, like, we want to be able to protect our stars.
And part of that is, how do you see the league continuing to evolve? Because I think around the league, we've seen teams go to deeper rotations. We've seen stars play shorter minutes. And because of how intense minutes are now, with teams picking up full court and playing as fast as they have and pressuring as much as they do, like, these minutes are tough. And so you do want to have as much depth as possible. I think the Thunder rode that. The Pacers last year rode that. And that can be a formula. And especially having the types of guys who are capable of playing those hard minutes and coming in and, playing till exhaustion and making a huge difference, and then subbing out for another guy who can do all the same stuff. There's value in that. So I don't think it's necessary for the Celtics to trim this roster and consolidate. Like, maybe it's best to just have a whole bunch of wings who you can throw at teams and ride that. And ease the burden on Jaylen Brown, ease the burden on Jason Tatum as he's coming back from a torn Achilles, and really, really maximize the depth, because I do think, we'll see how these young wings develop and what they become, but it has a chance to become a super, super deep team when Tatum comes back, especially like, let's say somehow they are able to add another center, and then you're just like loaded at every position.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating from that standpoint to see where you have, if you want to make an upgrade at center, whether you'd rather be like, all right, let's just use a future pick or two to do that and keep the known commodities on the wing, like, or whether that's you want to have the flexibility of like a pick going forward, because you're gonna have to, if you're gonna make a serious upgrade at center, obviously you're gonna have to move something of value. But I think the case can be made, like, these guys, you'd rather have the known than the unknown when you're dealing with backup wings, because you don't want to wait this for another 19-year-old guy come in and maybe he's not Hugo Gonzalez, or and if these guys have shown they're ready to,
There's no other Hugo Gonzalez.
I mean, that's the thing. The man, where does he go in this draft right now, by the way? If they redraft right now, is he like,
I love the redraft.
The top 10 at this point? It's really a lottery pick.
So the draft was awesome. Like, there are a lot of guys from that draft who I'm pulling up the draft right now.
The top 10 is pretty damn good.
Yeah. The top 10 is great, but even later on, like, there are guys that are playing pretty well. But yeah, he definitely jumps at least top 15, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, even some second, like Kalkbrenner looks good. Who else is looking legit?
The big man of the Kings that we'll see. I forgot to print. He's out of Stanford, right? Renaud.
Yeah, Maxine,
yep.
Yeah, like Derek Queen, he's jumping into the top 10. Like, this is it was a pretty deep draft, but yeah, he's climbing. He's climbing. He's climbing. The redraft a couple years from now, who knows? But the instant redraft already, he's climbing.
Pretty good work. Let's wrap on this. You talked to Drew Holiday before Sunday's game. I think he obviously he's been out for a while. He didn't play in this game, but he hadn't talked at length about his trade from Boston this summer yet. What were your interactions like with him in that interview, and where do we kind of stand with this trade right now as a whole, do you feel like?
It's so funny because, like, usually there's so much media around, but very few Celtics reporters traveled on this trip, and there aren't many Blazer reporters either. And so we were just hanging out. It was me, Abby, Wash, and Sean Hyken were the only people in the Blazers locker room just waiting. And obviously Drew wasn't playing and Robert Williams wasn't playing. And so we were just waiting to see whether those guys would wander by and want to talk to us. And Drew came in. He's just a good dude and chatted with us for a little while. And then we asked him if we could talk to him on the record. And he said, of course. And the thing that stood out to me the most was just how he appreciated Brad Stevens, the way that Brad approached the offseason. And obviously Brad had to make very difficult decisions and trade away two really important pieces in Drew and Kristaps, and effectively let Horford and Cornette go, even though the Celtics tried to keep those guys. That financially they just couldn't offer enough because they wanted to stay under the second apron. And Brad knew those things were coming, so he told Drew, you might get traded. And I think I didn't put this in my story, but because of the way Drew's tenure ended in Milwaukee, I think he really, really appreciated that from Brad, because in Milwaukee, he said that he was taking a nap and got a call, and then he was just gone, and he had no warning that he could be gone, and he'd won a title there. He was one of the guys there, and I don't know if he said this, but I think he felt like Horst did him dirty by basically trading him in the middle of the night a week before training camp for Damian Lillard. And so he had a lot of respect for how Brad handled it and how Brad did things very differently, and just let him know, like, hey man, like, this could happen. Our financial situation is this, and if it does happen, we still value you and we appreciate you, whatever. So that stood out the most. And he does seem like very happy with Portland and pretty excited. He was excited to play a bigger role again.
He played great for those first 10 before he got hurt. Like, everyone was like, "Holy crap, Drew can still do this stuff."
Yeah, Drew can still do a lot of stuff, and they've really missed him since he's gone. It was funny. I think it was Abby who asked, like, "Are you? Do they need you on the court right now?" And he looked over at one of his teammates, like, "Yo, do you need me out there?" it was really funny, but they really need him. It didn't matter as much yesterday against the Celtics, but it's hard to function and operate when you don't have a point guard, and he was playing that point guard role for them, handling a lot of the ball handling duties and doing it really well, averaging more than 8 assists a game. And they just need that veteran presence, and they've kind of plummeted. They had a great start when he was available, and they've plummeted ever since. He's been out with a calf injury for about 6 weeks now, I think. He's only played 12 games all season.
Did he give you an indication if he's close at all, or is he like progressing, or is it? I mean, Cavs obviously, that's a
no. We actually didn't ask him about the injury at all, but he looked like he was coming back from a workout when he met with us, and so hopefully he's coming back soon.
Yeah, it's the trade. It's when Drew signed that second contract for the extension of Boston, like that's the last big deal he's going to get in the NBA. So I imagine his representative, everyone was aware of like the possibility that he would have to be dealt a year down the road when he signed that deal. But like you said, for him you wonder if like it'd be any, ill feelings about it from him standpoint after, having to be traded 1 year late. But like I said, if the way Brad handled that, because there was a possibility, I think, like, obviously everything was on the table for this team at the beginning of last offseason. Like we reported about it. And I think it was always the most likely situation that Drew or Porzingis would be dealt. But like the Celtics, they're certainly could have gone through that number of different ways. So clearly being open about it was the way to go with a veteran like Holiday. And now you wonder, like, is he going to hold a grudge for being sent to Portland? No, he's getting a chance to do more on a upcoming team. I don't know if the Celtics gave him like, hey, we have 3 different options. I don't imagine they gave him a choice at that point. They probably didn't have the luxury of doing that.
No, he said that he was surprised by Portland because he hadn't heard any rumors about them or anything. So
yeah,
they definitely didn't keep him abreast of things from the sound of it.
Right. But that's in a situation like that. They probably just didn't have that flexibility to do so. So, but yeah, it's great to see him. Hopefully he gets back on the court soon. But the fact that there's no ill will there is, I think, a great sign and speaks to everyone involved.
Yeah, that's part of what makes Brad special is he is able to, like, I don't think he'll ever treat anyone poorly.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of a difference that makes to possible free agents, to targets down the road, but I do believe that Brad's reputation is probably as good as anybody's around the league, just with the way he treats people, the respect he has for people, and I would imagine that at some level that makes a difference. I don't know how big that is, but but I'm sure it helps.
Did you guys catch Rob anywhere in the arena?
No, I did not see Rob at all. Rob has never played against the Celtics.
That's wild.
It's crazy. And he's going to play. Sounds like he's going to play tonight. He's just not playing both legs of a back-to-back, and they decided to hold him out against the Celtics. And so, yeah, it's too bad. One day, maybe, he will play against the Celtics for the first time. But it hasn't happened yet. I don't think he's ever, like, really talked about the trade.
Probably not, because
like, I'm sure he answered questions about it at first,
right,
when he got to Portland, but like from Celtics media, I don't think he's talked to anybody about any of it, which is crazy because that was a long time at this point.
Yeah, it's been many moons ago at this stage, but yeah, I don't know when Portland comes to Boston. I don't know if that's before or after the trade deadline, but I think it's a very real possibility. His first game against the Celtics might be in a different uniform.
Or maybe he'll get traded somewhere that's already played all its games against.
All right, there you go, even better.
Continue never playing games against the Celtics.
Maybe he'll be traded to the Celtics, Jay. Maybe he'll be traded to the Celtics.
Ooh,
probably not.
Forsberg.
I know Forsberg will be. That was his dream from. I did a podcast before, like the night after Game 6 in New York, and he was already bringing up Rob as a trade target for the Celtics.
The Celtics do play the Blazers again before the trade deadline.
All right, so there's a chance.
January 26th.
They gotta keep Rob healthy. He deserves there'll be a fun ovation for him to get a teeth guard if he actually is able to take the floor there.
But it is a back-to-back for the Blazers. They play in Washington the next night, so you never know.
No, to see if he gets the night off against the Wizards. You got anything else for us out there? Are you enjoying the beautiful sights of Portland and in Indiana and now
beautiful
Utah?
Portland, baby. Then beautiful Utah. It was it didn't rain here in Portland, which is rare. So shout out to Portland for staying dry for me.
You checking the LA weather for later this week?
I haven't checked it yet. I'm just hoping that it's beautiful.
Hope you brought some shorts.
Yeah,
that will do it for us. We will be back with you guys after Tuesday night's game against the Jazz. As Jay said, definitely check out our Patreon right now. We are giving away a free month subscription. So go to patreon.com/stillpotable to sign up for that, to be able to get shows Monday through Friday. After every game, behind the scenes stuff, interviews, subscriber only mailbags. You get it all. So we love you guys to check it out. Thanks to everyone who's already a part of the community there. We appreciate it. Again, you can check out the free shows on Spotify and Apple, on the CLNS YouTube. So continue to check those out. But if you want to get shows from us every single day, go to patreon.com/stillpotable to check Jay, myself, and Sam Jam Packard. That'll be it. We'll continue to keep checking in with Jay on the road all week long here, and we'll talk to you guys after Tuesday night.
Still Bottle, the Boston, still Bottle,